We are continuing. Srimad Bhagavatam. We're in the intro. We're doing Srila Prabhupada's purports. Really wonderful translation. Actually, I think it's the only English translation that I know. Is bona fide, at least. This is coming from the Gaudiya Vaishnav lineage, and this is a really special lineage. I gotta somehow sit in front of that glare. But very special lineage. And this is a really special translation, so we're gonna read together as much as we can. But of course, before we get into it, we're gonna offer our pranams and prayers unto ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, whose wisdom we're approaching right now, and the lineage, the parampara, it's called, of gurus who have disseminated this knowledge over the ages, over thousands upon thousands of years, so that we have access to it today. And it's quite wonderful. And yeah, enjoy. Meghna, I'm gonna have you right here. These prayers are happening. So let me get the... not that one. That's a nice one. That's also nice. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to find the Bhagavatam prayers for us. Do you know where the... It's up? You know Meghna better than me. You're better than me. So, I'll begin our invocation chant.
Reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Nar Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadev, the author.
Shri Krishna, person of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted.
Shatreshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistati. By regular attendance in the classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact.
So now we'll do
वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः
So we'll do the Prabhupada's
कृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिने नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशधारिणे नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
So my obeisances, dear devotees, in person especially, and Hare Krishna, and in online, my equal pranams to you. I offer my obeisances thousands upon thousands of times to my Diksha Guru and my many Shiksha Gurus who have helped me acquire some wisdom up until this point and given their mercy to have helped me along this bhakti yoga path. And my humble attempt is to just maybe share a little bit of what what has benefited my life with you as well. And we're going to just primarily read Srila Prabhupada's books here. But we'll do some commentary. As you can see on the screen, there's a beautiful picture of the Jagannath deities. These are ancient deities. There's been a festival called the Ratha Yatra, bringing Jagannath, Subhadra and Baladev, the three personalities of the deities, on a big cart, and it's actually the biggest festival in the world. And actually now it's all over the world. This movement in specific, Srila Prabhupada brought this festival to every major city, I believe, all over the world, or at least all the big cities, New York, London, Paris, Berlin, and so on. So this is Lord Chaitanya. It's showing him who he's actually passed out in transcendental ecstasy before the deities when he first sees them. And now everyone is, this is a very bustling temple, and now everyone is seeing just how wonderful Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in his ecstasy. And he's literally, in the picture, he's depicted as shining, glowing. But actually, this is how many perceived him when he was here in this world. So, when it says, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the temple of Jagannath at Puri, he at once became saturated with transcendental ecstasy and fell down unconscious on the floor of the temple. Now, how did he get there? A little recap of what we read last time. He was traveling. Remember, he was partying with his devotees after he was tricked by Nityananda Prabhu to go to Advaita Acharya's home. And they had this ecstatic kirtan festival, even though they were all sad to see the Lord had lost his hair, and he's now this sannyasi monk. And but now he's on his way, and he passes through these wonderful places where Shirachora Gopinath and Shakshi Gopal, these have amazing pastimes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I recommend you read them. And then there's a pastime of Lord Nityananda broke his sannyas danda, or it's like a rod. It had meaning. It had a deeper meaning why he broke the danda. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was beyond the regulations that the danda represented. So I'm not an authority on this subject, so I'll kind of leave it at that. But that's from what I've heard. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's second half, and he was acting in the way that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could not act, because he had to keep up an image for society to fulfill his mission, to come and to spread this Harinam Sankirtan. And it's actually predicted in the Bhagavatam that a personality would do this in Kali Yuga, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is that personality. He's actually the Bhagavatam's fulfilled prophecy. And Bhagavatam was actually the main wisdom scripture he wanted to share with the world, and Srila Prabhupada fought so hard in his life to share this with the world, and he unfortunately he did not get to actually finish the whole Bhagavatam because it's 18,000 verses, but he finished into the 10th canto, and his disciples actually finished the English translation not that many years after he passed. What's that?
I think 11th canto, right?
No, 10th canto, 13th chapter. And then the 14th chapter is a heartbreak because you're no longer getting Prabhupada's purports. He got to the Brahma Vimohan Leela, the bewilderment of Brahma. So it's a very nice pastime. But he did do the Krishna book, so that's essentially the whole 10th canto summarized as well. So we have that as well. But anyway, moving forward now to today's reading. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the temple of Jagannath Puri, he at once became saturated with transcendental ecstasy and fell down unconscious on the floor of the temple. You know, people might wonder, like, he's just seeing, you know, in the West, I don't mean to come off offensive to the devotees, but in the West we tended, I know I did in the beginning, just like, why are people worshiping statues? Especially I was kind of told in the Judeo-Christian kind of background, there could be no statues. God hates statues. It's kind of that's the what they kind of emphasize in some ways. Idol worship, they call it. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he understands, and he's telling us this is not actually idol worship. They're actually seeing the Lord within this image. And yes, maybe the devotees of the Lord helped to carve an image, but the Lord can, if he so chooses, if he can be in a burning bush, if he can be everywhere and anywhere and so small and infinitely big all at the same time, why could he not come and reciprocate with his devotees via a deity form? And actually we see so many times that deities have miracles, so many miracles happen around deity worship, around deities in relationship with the deity. It's not necessarily the material elements that the deity may be standing in front of us, seemingly constructed out of, that is doing it. It's actually the Lord himself enlivening, just like your body is a bunch of material elements, and it's actually, when my body drops dead, after 2 or 3 days, you'll all won't want to touch it anymore. You won't want to be near it. You'll be like, all right, we either got to bury this thing or we got to light it on fire, you know. So similarly, you know, but the soul can come inside the body and it can animate the body and it can make my body semi-worth associating with, potentially. So the deity form is a composition, and everything's arranged by the Lord. It's the reciprocation of the devotee with the material elements to invite the Lord to come and please reciprocate with me. And especially because we start with a material consciousness where we can't fully perceive spiritual things. The deity is like a via media where it has a seemingly material composition, and we're looking at it as maybe, especially in the neophyte stage, we're seeing it, this is the material form of the Lord, but actually this is a great spiritual gift the Lord is giving us and actually appearing to us in this form. And so deity worship is huge in India. In the West, it may, I know I was triggered by it in the beginning. I was like, whoa. But now, after practicing for some years, I can say that I've had really wonderful experiences internally and even externally, seen that the deity is reciprocating with us, and yeah, actually, you see at the end of our program, we do deity worship every day. So just a little explanation about that, if that is a trigger button for anybody. But, so we're going to go on with the reading now. At Puri, when he entered the temple of Jagannath, he became at once saturated with transcendental ecstasy and fell down on the floor of the temple unconscious. The custodians of the temple could not understand the transcendental feats of the Lord, but there was a great learned pundit named Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya who was present. He could understand that the Lord's losing his consciousness upon entering the Jagannath temple was not an ordinary thing. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was the chief appointed pundit in the court of the king of Orissa, Maharaj Prataparudra, was attracted by the youthful luster of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and could understand that such a transcendental trance was only rarely exhibited, and only then by the topmost devotees who are already on the transcendental plane in complete forgetfulness of material existence. Only a liberated soul could show such a transcendental feat, and the Bhattacharya, who was vastly learned, could understand this in the light of the transcendental literature with which he was familiar. He therefore asked the custodians of the temple not to disturb the unknown sannyasi. He asked them to take the Lord to his home so he could be further observed in his unconscious state. So just so you kind of paint a picture, all the guards, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he like screamed out for Jagannath and he passed out unconscious. And so this is one of the biggest temples in the world, Jagannath Puri, and it is high security in ancient times all the way till today. I'm not allowed in the Jagannath temple due to my Western birth. They're very strict. I mean, it doesn't really make sense, because if you have dark brown skin and you eat meat and do so many things against their principles, you can sneak your way in, no problem. But if you have, it's a little racist actually, but if you have light skin and you're practicing so sincerely. So actually Srila Prabhupada had a huge problem with this. He wrote a letter to the pujaris there, pretty much stating that you're not actually representing Jagannath. Jagannath means the Lord of the universe, and he's not just the Lord of the Indians. So this is something that actually Srila Prabhupada is a revolutionary. He's not just giving us Indian teaching, he's giving us the ancient Vedic teaching, which predates the Hinduization or the modern Indianization of Vedic culture. So he's trying to give us the pure thing. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed out in ecstasy. And so the guards are ready to come upon him, maybe beat him. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he covers him and he says, no, this is transcendental. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was a great, great scholar. He was so learned, especially in the Mayavad, or you could say the Advaita Vedanta understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was actually a pundit, which is like a great learned scholar. And he taught many, many people. He was one of the greatest students in Jagannath Puri, or not students, the greatest teachers in Jagannath Puri, or considered by the populace. And he had great connections with the king and so many of the higher echelons of Jagannath Puri. So he protected him, and he brought the Lord to his home, and we'll continue. The Lord was at once carried to the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who at the time had sufficient power of authority due to his being the Shabha Pandit, or the state dean of faculty in Sanskrit literatures. The learned Pandit wanted to scrutinizingly test the transcendental feats of Lord Chaitanya, because often unscrupulous. Does anyone have a phone to Google unscrupulous? Unscrupulous. Yeah, I know it's not a savory characteristic, but why not know exactly what it means? So often unscrupulous devotees imitate physical feats in order to flaunt transcendental achievements, just to attract innocent people and take advantage of them. A learned scholar like the Bhattacharya can detect such imposters, and when he finds them out, he at once rejects them. So you see this a lot of times as devotees. Especially when we're in a more neophyte stage, we may be more caring about what the appearance of others think, and we might try and imitate that we're higher than we are. And I know, it can be very subtle. and I know personally sometimes I might try to explain something where actually in reality I have no idea anything about this level of devotion. Now, but there are those who are unscrupulous, which means, Murari?
Behaving in a way that is dishonest or unfair in order to get what you want.
Behaving in a way that is dishonest or unfair in order to get what you want. Why to do such a thing? Because ultimately they want something. They want maybe recognition. They want others to think, look at me, I'm a great devotee, I'm a spiritualist. And this, trust me, is when you get into spiritual society and spiritual community, you see there's huge spiritual egos walking around, instead of flaunting their money and power, they're flaunting their spiritual achievements or their spiritual quote unquote prowess, especially in like the kirtan scene, you can become very talented as a musician. But where is the actual heart? Is the heart actually in dedication or in pure love for Krishna, or is in the heart in like, look at me, look what I can do? So this could be something. It's a huge pitfall for devotees. We should not become unscrupulous devotees who trying to show, look at me, and also I know I was guilty of it myself. And even like now we're live streaming things to people, and we could so easily, get caught up in the like, hey, look what we're doing, hey, look what we're doing, hey, look what we're doing. But it doesn't actually change your heart, Yes, you may be trying to inspire others or help share with others via these online platforms, but what's the reason behind it? And it's a huge, pitfall, something we should try and work with, not to try and flaunt our so-called spiritual advancement. So some devotees do that. But you can actually, there are symptoms. An advanced devotee, he knows what's a real devotional symptom and what's not. And usually in India, when they find out that somebody is imitating or an imposter, someone will come and beat them. And that person who is imitating all these transcendental achievements or feats or ecstasies, they just start running for the hills. Where someone really in those transcendental like ecstasies, they'll be unconscious and they can take all of it. So that's one of the ways you can know if somebody is fully in this like transcendental ecstasy, is just start beating them. Not to say we should take it upon ourselves.
I can't remember the last time where Prabhupada told the devotees, because one devotee came in this teaching class, he was acting that way in the job, and Prabhupada said, and they asked him, Prabhupada told them to go in there and beat him because he would stop him. I can't remember what happened though. You know that pastime?
I do not know that pastime, but it doesn't surprise me, and it has shastric authority. There's a snake charmer pastime where Haridas Thakur was in ecstasy when there was a snake charmer was doing his dance, because he was thinking of, I think, Sankarshan. And so everyone was like lauding Haridas Thakur because he was a pure devotee, and everyone was really appreciating his dancing in ecstasy. And then another Brahmin, was like, oh, Haridas Thakur is not even a Brahmin, but I'm a Brahmin, I can show these ecstasies. So he starts dancing. And then the snake charmer stops, and he just starts beating the snot out of this Brahmin. And the Brahmin, because he's in material consciousness, if you started beating Haridas Thakur, and it was actually understood, he actually got beaten in 22 marketplaces because he was a supposed Muslim born, and the Muslim rulership was like, why are you chanting the name of the Hindu god? Chanting the name of Allah. Because immature religious understanding, we do things like this, where we can't appreciate others' approach to God. So anyway, Haridas Thakur, he was in ecstasy, and the guards, usually a person would actually die after 1 or 2 marketplaces. But they sent him to 22, and the guards were beating him so much, and he was in so much ecstasy the whole time that they were actually frightened for their lives. And it's a whole pastime. Haridas Thakur actually became compassionate for them. He's like, they fear for their lives. Like, I actually, because the king would have killed them if they didn't do their job as just soldiers. So now the soldiers are trying to like beat Haridas Thakur and kill him, but he won't die. And So he actually, he apologized to them and just dropped dead. Or it seemed like he dropped dead. And then there's a whole pastime. They threw him in the Ganges, and then he came back to life. He was a great mystic. He could do transcendental things. But similarly, he was dancing, and another Brahmana, he starts dancing, and he started trying to feign these transcendental ecstasies, and he got whooped. And when he got whooped, it became clear he wasn't in transcendental ecstasy because he ran away crying. So these are some of the, just pitfalls we should not do as devotees, try and flaunt our devotional achievements. Now, in the case of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Bhattacharya tested all the symptoms in the light of the Shastras. He tested as a scientist, not as a foolish sentimentalist. He observed the movement of the stomach, the beating of the heart, and the breathing of the nostrils. He also felt the pulse of the Lord and saw that all his bodily activities were in complete suspension. When he put a small cotton swab before the nostrils, he found that there was a slight breathing as the fine fibers of cotton moved slightly. Thus he came to know that the Lord's unconscious trance was genuine, and he began to treat him in the prescribed fashion. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could only be treated in a special way. He would respond only to the resounding of the holy names of the Lord by his devotees. This special treatment was unknown to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya because the Lord was still unknown to him. So he would respond only to the resounding of the holy names of the Lord by his devotees. This special treatment was unknown to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya because the Lord was still unknown to him. When the Bhattacharya saw him for the first time in the temple, he simply took him to be one of the many pilgrims. So now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's lying unconscious at Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's. Now it was mentioned in the beginning of this reading, this introduction, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how do you enliven, wake him up, bring him back to consciousness when he's crying or even unconscious? You chant the name of the Lord. That's what he came to this world to do. So every situation that he finds himself, it's all to inspire us to chant the names of the Lord. This is the main process, to try and understand Krishna and to chant his holy names. Love him, worship him, and follow his instructions and chant his names. So, Satu, you're taking care of that stuff?
Yeah.
Cool. Just remember to turn on the oven.
That's what she said.
Yeah, you just hit bake. So hit it twice and that'll do it. So, in the case of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you read that. Now in the meantime, the companions of the Lord who reached the temple a little after him heard of the Lord's transcendental feats and of his being carried away by the Bhattacharya. The pilgrims at the temple were still gossiping about the incident. But by chance, one of these pilgrims had met Gopinath Acharya, who was known to Gadadhar Pandit, and from him it was learned that the Lord was lying in an unconscious state at the residence of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So, everyone was gossiping about the incident. But by good chance, one of the pilgrims, like Lord Nityananda and the rest of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees. Now remember, because after Lord Nityananda broke the staff, the Lord, he feigned like he was actually angry at them for doing that, because he was supposed to follow the rules of carrying the staff, but Nityananda Prabhu knew the Lord was beyond this, and he broke it. And so the Lord was like, I'm angry with you all. So he left them and he went to Jagannath first. But now the rest of them all appear. And they find Gopinath Acharya, who was known to Gadadhar Pandit, who was one of the pilgrims and a great associate of the Lord. And from him it was learned the Lord was lying in an unconscious state at the residence of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who happened to be the brother-in-law of Gopinath Acharya. All the members of the party were introduced by Gadadhar Pandit to Gopinath Acharya, who took them all to the house of Bhattacharya, where the Lord was lying unconscious in a spiritual trance. All the members then chanted loudly the holy name of the Lord, Hari as usual, in Kirtan. This is our main process. And the Lord regained his consciousness. After this, the Bhattacharya received all the members of the party, including Lord Nityananda Prabhu, and asked them to become his guests of honor. At the party, including the Lord, went for a bath in the sea, and the Bhattacharya arranged for their residence and meals at the house of Kashi Mishra. Gopinath Acharya, his brother-in-law, also assisted. Now Kashi Mishra was like a great priest and assistant to the king. Now like all the wonderful things are getting established here now in Jagannath Puri. There were some friendly talks about the Lord's divinity between the two brothers-in-law. And in this argument, Gopinath Acharya, who knew the Lord before, now tried to establish the Lord as the personality of Godhead. And the Bhattacharya tried to establish him as one of the great devotees. Both of them argued from the angle of vision of authentic Shastras and not on the strength of sentimental vox populi. The incarnations of God are determined by authentic Shastras and not by the popular votes of foolish fanatics. Because Lord Chaitanya was an incarnation of God in fact, foolish fanatics have proclaimed so many so-called incarnations of God in this age without referring to authentic scriptures. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya or Gopinath Acharya did not indulge in such foolish sentimentalism. On the contrary, both of them tried to establish or reject his divinity on the strength of authentic Shastras. This is a really good point here. Now they're arguing. Gopinath Acharya is saying these are the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he was giving these Shastric references. This is the way to actually understand the truth of a matter. And then at the same time, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was saying, no, he's only a great devotee. This is why, and he was giving his Shastric reference. So they were having a debate based on Shastra, and this is how you have a proper debate. It's not a debate just on how your heart feels or how your supposed, sentiments are feeling. No, this is not actually at all how a devotee operates. A devotee operates based on the Shastras. And even it said in Uttam Bhagavat, who's on the completely ecstatic transcendental platform, he's expert in debating on the Shastras. He doesn't necessarily like to debate on the Shastras. He might find it's a waste of time even because oftentimes people want to argue or debate on something that isn't necessarily out of pure love. Usually, I know personally I have the tendency to always want to be right. And when I want to be right, I might find myself arguing, and someone might have a more authoritative way, showing me something, and instead of my ego being humble and accepting that, I might want to be like, well, it's like this because of this, and but ultimately, if that does happen, maybe Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was maybe feeling that he's the great learned pundit, and Gopinath Acharya, who's his brother-in-law, is telling him, having a debate with him on the Shastras. So ultimately, they were having this debate. But they did not indulge in foolish sentimentalism. On the contrary, they weren't like, well, I feel like this because it's like this. It's like, oh, what did the Shastras say? What's the conclusion? What's the evidence given in the revealed scriptures? Or even, you can have practical, logical understanding via science as well. And these can come to the table as evidence. Now, so later it was disclosed that the Bhattacharya also came from the Navadvip area. And it was understood from him that Nilambar Chakravarti, the maternal grandfather of Lord Chaitanya, happened to be a class fellow of the father of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. In that sense, the young sannyasi, Lord Chaitanya, evoked paternal affection from Bhattacharya. Bhattacharya was the professor of many sannyasis in the order of the Shankaracharya Sampradaya, and he himself also belonged to that cult. Now, hold on, I'll finish the last sentence and I got to talk about the word cult. As such, the Bhattacharya desired that the young sannyasi, Lord Chaitanya, also hear from him about the teachings of Vedanta. Mara, you did a really nice seva before of looking up unscrupulous. Can you look up the British meaning of cult? Because what happens a lot of times is the mass media, well, I don't even want to take it that route, but society as a whole can change the meaning of words, and it comes to mean something with negative connotations, when really that's not the meaning. Now remember, all of India was conquered by British for hundreds of years, I believe. Conquered, well, at least I think around 100 or more years. And more than that, I think. And then they were conquered by the Muslims for, I think, close to 1,000 years. So, but now in India, where they were learning English, they weren't learning American English. You know, Americans, we can get very prideful and we can think, oh yeah, we're the founders of English, but it's English, England. So anyway, there's English, you see things like vox populi, which means the popular vote. But there are English terms, that's actually Latin, but there are English terms like, cult, which actually means like a religious following, or Murray, you have the definition?
Yeah, there's different definitions, but obviously because like you said, but I think the fitting one is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object.
Okay, so
Or let's see. I also like a religion regarding. Oh no, that's not right.
I like what you just read. Can you repeat it one more time? So it's a religion.
So a system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or
Okay.
object.
So it's a devotional religion directed towards a particular figure, object, or say God. So it's actually like most religions are cults in that definition. So when Prabhupada's saying cult, don't get your trigger warnings like I gotta run for the hills. It's a cult. I'm like, yeah, maybe by the archaic definition, it is a cult, but so is your local church, and so is your other many other local religions, and we're all I'm seeing protests all over the campuses, and I'm looking in the news, I'm seeing it all over the country right now. The Jews and the Muslims, they're like protesting against each other, over the Israel-Palestine, and I'm not going to get into that at all. But it's two cults protesting against each other, and the whole vox populi, to throw it back now, we're all like supporting one side or the other. So yeah, we like cults. We appreciate cults. So we don't like the word cult, but Prabhupada writes
So
in that way.
In direct relation to
Yeah.
the Hindu or like things like that, it says a particular system of religious belief. So
Okay.
that's all cult means.
Yeah.
In India.
Okay.
So like in a sense, just like you were saying, like any religion technically would be fall into
A cult, yeah. So that's what the word cult means. So when you see that word, because you will see it again, probably in the next paragraph, or maybe not. But if you do see it again, it's not like, oh, I'm in a cult. Somehow got meant to mean that someone will kill you with Kool-Aid or something weird like that. But yeah. So anyway, as such, the Bhattacharya desired that the young sannyasi, Lord Chaitanya, also hear from him about the teachings of Vedanta. Those who are followers of the Shankar cult, remember, just religious devotional institution, are generally known as Vedantists. This does not, however, mean that Vedanta is a monopoly study of the Shankara Sampradaya. Vedanta is studied by all the bona fide Sampradayas, but they have their own interpretations. But those in the Shankar Sampradaya are generally known to be ignorant of the knowledge of the Vedantist Vaishnavas. For this reason, the Bhaktivedanta title was first offered to the author by the Vaishnavas. Now, they're going to talk a lot about the Shankara cult. Lord Chaitanya, technically, he took sannyas under this cult for the preaching purpose, because this is well respected in the society. And it had a huge function in Indian history, because without Shankaracharya, Buddhism was the primary religion of India. But Buddhism was actually very unfavorable to traditional Vedic culture, because Buddhism it said, screw the Vedas. Don't worry about the Vedas. Just meditate on and trying to reach samadhi. They actually give many Vedic principles how to live right. I mean, traditionally, it's pretty much the atheist way to be a good Vedic Brahmana without believing in God. It's like the atheist way to religious morality, and that's Buddhism, actually. But so India, it was necessary at a time, because the Brahmanas at the time, they were actually abusing the Vedas, because the Vedas prescribe certain things, there are religious ways to have multiple wives. There's religious ways to have do certain animal sacrifices, and there's so many religious ways to do so many things. But the people, because we were in a degrading age, they started abusing these things, and they wanted to eat a lot of animals, maybe have a lot of wives, maybe do all kinds of things. So they would do things in the name of the Vedas that were not bona fide. So the Lord had a plan. Actually, he was Buddha is an incarnation. It'll be mentioned in the first canto of the Bhagavatam that Buddha actually is an incarnation of the Lord. But Buddhism itself, what he taught, he had a plan for it to be usurped at one point, and Shankar was the great, and Shankar was amazing. Actually, he's said to be an incarnation of Lord Shiva, he has a special task as well. So whereas Buddhism was meant to completely disregard the Vedas for a period of time, to get people on the right track, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Righteous Path, actual Vedic Brahmin principles, living a stand-up life. But at some point, the atheism had to go. So Shankar actually was the one who threw that atheistic philosophy out of India, and through Shastra and performing many miracles. And then Shankar's system called Advaita Vedanta became the topmost system in India. And actually today, it still is very, very prominent, especially in Kashi, which is also known as Benares, and many other different places, especially where Lord Shiva worship is prominent. So Shankar did wonderful things. But at some point, the Lord said, well, Shankar also did a great cheating thing, because he had to kind of convince people to follow the Vedas again and to respect the Shastras, and and understand the universal oneness of the Lord. But then the very bad thing that Shankar promoted is that you are God. And actually he knew he was not fully the total God, but he had a mission. It was helpful for a period of time for the people of India to actually think that they were God, and to think that everyone is God, and to see the divinity in all others. But the Lord now, Chaitanya, he had to come and actually establish the true topmost religion, which is also the same Vedanta that the Shankarites study, but now under the Vaishnava understanding, in the context that actually this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead is beyond all of us, and we're all a part of him, but we're only the parts and parcels. And that's actually the truth. And it's called Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. So this is going to be established by Lord Chaitanya. And he's actually about to revolutionize India. And what you see now, you're seeing with the revitalization of Vrindavan, you're seeing in all the holy places, you're seeing Vaishnavism more and more and more as becoming more and more prominent. And Vaishnavism is all across the world, where the Advaita Vedanta, which is also across the world, you see it's not, the rest of the world isn't really accepting it. There's a cult in India that's accepting it, but they're dwindling more and more, and Vaishnavism is becoming more and more prominent. And that was Lord Chaitanya's mission. And it's our mission still. We're playing our part to establish this Vaishnavism all across the world. So we're going to stop here. Where are we at here? What was the last thing I read, Meghna? Do you know? Oh, we were talking about Vedanta, and we stopped mid-paragraph, so I'm going to read this last little paragraph. Those who are followers of the Shankar cult are generally known as Vedantists. This does not, however, mean that Vedanta is a monopoly study of the Shankar Sampradaya. Vedanta is studied by all the bona fide Sampradayas, but they have their own interpretations. But those in the Shankara Sampradaya are generally known to be ignorant of the knowledge of the Vedantist Vaishnavas. For this reason, the Bhaktivedanta title was first offered to the author by the Vaishnavas. Oh, that's a great point. We'll end there. Our dear Srila Prabhupada is Bhakti Vedanta Swami, and actually many others. He had a really close contemporary Om Pragyana Keshava Goswami. Om Pragyana. Well, I think Bhakti. Do you know it, Meghna? No. But he also would. He actually was Srila Prabhupada's sannyas guru, and he, I believe, gave him Bhaktivedanta Swami as the name. Now I'm not. I'm pretty sure that was the case, but don't. You maybe check my work.
Mm-hmm.
But he did. Yeah. So he actually gave him that name. So it's interesting. It was first offered to the authors by the Vaishnavas. So Srila Prabhupada is actually glorying him right now as Om Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Goswami has given him this name. And he takes it. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, he accepts it. And actually you see Srila Narayan Maharaj is also was very dear to Srila Prabhupada. He was Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. And there's many other Bhaktivedantas given by that was Om Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Goswami's kind of very important emphasis that he would give to his disciples, to be Bhakti Vedantists, to be able to discuss on the basis of Vedanta, on the basis of Shastra, but to give the Bhakti, the truth of Bhakti promoted by Krishna Bhagavan in both Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And all the ancient great Shastras like Mahabharata, Ramayana, and the great Puranas. So, as opposed to the other Vedantists who are actually giving the impersonal Shankarite, so that we can talk about this, Prabhupada will be challenging Shankar's understanding all throughout his purports of the Bhagavad, all of his books. One of his pranam mantras is that he's trying to save the world from this very disastrous philosophy. And I can explain why in another class, why impersonalism is very disastrous for the soul, and voidism, which is known as Buddhism. So anyway, we'll talk about that another time. Hare Krishna. We're going to move on to the next part. We're offer some worship to our Guru Parampara. And then we're going to open the deities and worship them with some kirtan. So Murari, would you like to sing the Guru Vandan? Meghna, if you could set up the different things here. Again, thank you everyone who is joining. I mean, it really means a lot that you will take your time to listen to us, and I really hope some of you are local and want to meet us, here at Mantra Central sometime, or also to meet us. We're going to do a Jagannath Ratha Yatra. We just talked about that a little bit today in New York. We're going to have like a little festival at, outside of New York City, so you can maybe potentially meet us for that. So, Meghna, I can't find this. I'm not very good at this. The prayers. Oh, I found it. Good. All right. Murari Prabhu, please. Jaya.
So we start with what?
Jaya Guru Parampara.
Jaya Guru Parampara. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Sachi Sita Nitai Ki Shri Krishna Bhagavan Ki Shri Prahlad Nrsimha Ki Vrinda Devi Tulsi Maharani Ki Govindam Adi Purusha Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusha Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusha Kandarpakoti kamaniya vishesha shobham Govindam Adipurusha Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusha Tamaham Bhajami Govinda Hari Purusha Anganiyasya Sakamen Priya Vritti Manti Kashanti Kanti Kalayanti Shiram Jaganti Ananda Chimaya Sadhu Jvala Vigrahasya Govinda Hari Purusha Tamaham Bhajami Govinda Hari Purusha Tamaham Bhajami Govinda Hari Purusha Tamaham Bhajami. Do you wanna keep it? It just has to be short. I could do it quick. So Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami So thank you, dear Vaishnavas, Murari, Sati, Meghna. Sita's from the distance right now. By association. So again, thank you so much, Hare Krishna, and we will see you guys again tomorrow. And actually, maybe we'll have Murari. You want to do? On the Facebook Live. I think we can do Chaitanya Charitamrita reading if you'd like tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah, we could start.
Okay, sure. If you want to wait another week, you can. Whatever you want, but maybe see you in 2 days then. But YouTube people at least. Instagram, we'll figure it out. But Hare Krishna, everyone, and until next time.